for the Week 5 recap show. Day late, but because of some travel, we are back and here with Connor, CFE. How you doing today, Connor?
Doing good. Thank you for having me back on.
All right. Yeah, there was a lot of people that came for you with pitchforks after last weekend with some of the plays, and we were kind of talking about that. So let's go ahead and just jump into it. Let's go over the plays that you had, and then we'll go over what I did or the ones that I had, and we'll also talk about whatever other games that we kind of whatever stood out to us. And then I know you have a couple of look ahead games that you have on your plate right now that we kind of talked a little bit about on Twitter, but we'll go ahead and get into it. So how'd you do on Saturday?
I haven't even looked at all the comments yet from some of our viewers. I mean, it's certainly easier to talk in hindsight. So hindsight's 2020. But
Exactly.
we appreciate all the comments. But I don't
Positive
look
or
at everything.
negative. That's right.
That's right. We thoroughly enjoy you guys tuning in. Um, so yeah, it was a rough week, no doubt, on my part. 1-3 with best bets. So certainly need to improve there. The Ohio State Washington pick, I don't hate that still. I know Ohio State ended up covering, but that roughing the passer call was one of the
It
worst
was
calls in
terrible.
years.
It was a
It-
terrible call.
yeah,
It was obvious that Ohio State has a great team and Washington may not be on that level just yet, but I kind of agree with that and the fact that the officials had a little say in the kind of some of the momentum swings in the game. The one thing that I would say is Jed Fish didn't do himself any favors with that fake field goal.
yeah.
Um, Total momentum killer for the Huskies. I thought they were playing great on defense. Offense was just trying to break through. And yeah, of course, you're going to need touchdowns to beat Ohio State, but let's be honest. Just the way it was drawn up, it had no chance, and it flipped the entire momentum of the game. But go ahead, Connor. I mean, to cut you off there.
No, no, you're good. I was look. We knew Ohio State's defense was one of the best in the country, but I didn't think it was that good because I still think Washington's offense is legit, and they completely
Hmm.
shut them down. Washington had a few explosive plays, but you're going to get that with some of the playmakers that they have. But I was extremely impressed with Ohio State's defense in that game, and a little bit surprised Washington's offense didn't do more. So I don't hate that
Yeah,
play in hindsight. I still love the Huskies. And obviously, like that was no discredit to Ohio State with that play. That was all about us with riding the Huskies. So yeah, we were off on that
yeah,
one, but the game was definitely closer than what the score would say. Uh,
yeah. I agree about that.
App State Boise.
Uh,
Oh my goodness. I apologies for that play. I got
yeah,
on that
that
one
one. That
early.
was.
Ooh,
And I think that was like a later game, so I didn't really see the score until like the next day. Oh no, I take that back. It was either that night or the next day. I saw the score because people were commenting on YouTube. They're like, "Oh, close one" or something. And of course, I kind of was like, "Well, this could be sarcastic." But let me go ahead and look at the score. And what was the final there? It was around 56-10.
gosh. I didn't check. Maybe it was like 47-16. I got to go
Yeah, it
back.
was it was it was it was a rough one, but
It was a 10-point game early third quarter. I'm thinking, we know
uh-huh.
what, we might get this cover, but you know, yeah, definitely no more riding Appalachian State's coaching staff. That was
Yeah.
pretty piss poor. 47-14. Yeah, it was a final
Yeah,
score.
47-14
Uh,
and yeah, 14
that
points in the fourth quarter from Boise. It was 24-7 at half. So, it was they were kind of, in it, but yeah, I obviously didn't watch the game, so
it's certainly an impressive performance in Boise State because they had Notre Dame on deck. So
mhm.
that was because it was 24-14 early third quarter. I'm thinking, okay, this is why we made this play because this
Mhm.
is a look ahead spot for App State and for Boise State, excuse me. And Boise wasn't exactly playing great. They had a pick six in the first half, late field goal to get their first half cover, but we were just obviously taking the full game with App State, and so I'm thinking, yeah, this is probably a decent play. And then, oh my gosh,
Mhm.
Boise just was terrific in the second half. That's not something I was expecting. And then
Yeah.
App State coming off of a bye week, that was a very bad performance. So no
Yep.
more backing App State and their coaching staff
They're
in the
on the
next.
ban list.
My gosh. Yeah. In fact, I'm making a list right now of coaching staffs to not tail anymore, including this next one, John. And this is one that if had you told me this in the summer, I would have not believed you. Penn State
Mhm.
minus 3.5 against Oregon. That was something I was extremely confident about. I said Oregon, or excuse me, I said Penn State was going to win by a couple of scores. Oregon should
Mhm.
have won by a couple of scores.
Yep.
But like that was something I thought about in the preseason. That was a game of the year line. So 1-1 with game of the year lines now with Toledo plus 11.5. That we got
Yep.
the opener against Kentucky that closed 8.5, 9.5. So um, James Franklin, man. So another coach that I will never tail again. I know some viewers are going to say, "Dude, why are you tailing James Franklin in a big game?" I thought that this was the year, and that was the game, that was the moment for James Franklin and Penn State to be different. Why? Because
Mhm.
I was also questioning Oregon, a much younger team going in that environment. This is obviously an all-in kind of year for Penn State. They were all in for that game. They had an easy schedule lining up to it coming off of
Mhm.
a bye week. I'm thinking there's no way this younger Oregon team is going to go into that environment and keep it that close. And they were the better team. In fact, Penn State,
Yeah.
I almost got lucky to get that cover. I almost got the cover, but Oregon was definitely the better team. So yeah, no more tailing James Franklin and Penn State. That was the first time I've ever tailed James Franklin just because I like that spot. But I don't care
Yeah.
what spot he's in. I'm no longer going to tail him. If he happens to win a big game at some point, good for him.
Good. Yep.
I'm not gonna bet that anymore. And then of course the one win, guys, sicko mode, Louisiana Tech. We're gonna keep riding Louisiana Tech. Now they're on a bye this week. I did say I was so close to pulling the trigger on Southern Miss against Jacksonville
Mhm.
State, but that was kind of like I just want to see how they look against Jacksonville State because I wasn't
Mhm.
Jacksonville State had done a little bit better than I thought they would. But I thought Southern Miss could certainly score on him, and they did, and they also covered. So we're going to ride Southern Miss starting next week because they are also on a bye this week. So our sicko mode and superlative stuff is still going superlative, but those other angles that we're taking, those are not going good. So we're going to stay with our superlatives and keep riding those.
Yeah. And and those teams have been nails for you. Louisiana Tech and Southern Miss went a little bit off the reservation with the Rainbow Warriors as well, and they dominated. They dominated Air Force. Excuse me, you were talking about the Air Force Falcons, and Hawaii came out and smacked them. It was like 55 to 16, 10, somewhere
Oh,
around there.
44-35.
Really?
Yeah, but Air Force can
Maybe I was
score some points,
watching
but their defense is not very good.
maybe I was looking at a different box score. Uh no, okay. My bad. I thought Air Force only scored like 16 points. Okay. But that was a close one then because Air Force was what, laying 6.5? Is that right?
Yeah, so I did not end up making this a best bet.
Mhm.
I stayed away from it because I didn't know what to expect from the Air Force defense, and
Yeah.
so fortunately, we didn't make that a best bet. Sorry if others took that as advice. I didn't say that that was a best bet, but that was on my radar. I did not end up pulling the trigger on that because I kind of want again, I didn't trust Air Force's defense and Hawaii, though, no doubt about it, though. They were actually limping into that game. So I was surprised that Hawaii's
Mhm.
offense put up that many points. But I think that just goes to show you uh the struggles that the Air Force defense is having right now. But good for Hawaii. That was another team that I talked about on my superlatives post in the
Uh-huh.
preseason. So yeah, I'm just gonna keep riding the superlatives and just not care about
Yeah,
any
I
other
mean,
angles.
yeah. Yeah, I think so. And we're only what, 5 weeks in. So there's plenty of football left and, angles, other numbers to look at. So those have been treating you well though. Your couple, what are they? Sun Belt teams. So Conference USA, and then conference play is really going to start heating up starting now with the smaller schools as well.
And by the way, since we're rolling into October essentially now, John, after you give your best bets, I also want to give an
Mhm.
update on all of our preseason futures because they're actually most of them practically all of them have gone very well, except for one team, which we'll get into later.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. Let's go ahead and segue into that. And my best bet, I had a losing record for the first time since the first week we did it. So that was disappointing. I went 2-3. My first loser was the Kansas Jayhawks laying 4 points. This one was kind of a weird game, and I was on the road, so I did not watch it. I was following along on my phone, and this number, I believe, opened up close to Kansas laying 6 points against Cincinnati. At that point, I was like, I knew I didn't want to lay 6 points with Kansas, but it got all the way down to 4, and I was thinking to myself, okay, that's around the wheelhouse where I think Kansas can win this by 4 points or a touchdown because of their offense. Well, lo and behold, their defense didn't show up, and it's official that the Kansas Jayhawks don't have a defense. So they had multiple chances inside the red zone to get some, I wouldn't say points, but touchdowns, and they were stopped short a couple times, and they just couldn't cash in touchdowns, settle for field goal. You think this game is going to land 7 with, I think, 45 seconds left. Cincinnati marches the ball all the way down the field. They get a touchdown, end up winning by 3 points, I believe, and Kansas Jayhawks go down. And for me, I can't back Kansas as a favorite because they have no defense. So that's something to sometimes it's important to learn something in the losses just as much
Yeah.
as being happy about wins. So now, not that I don't know if Kansas is going to be favored anytime soon, but yeah, I probably don't want to lay points with the Jayhawks, whose defense doesn't really have a pulse. My second game, which I was way off, and that was the Arizona Wildcats. One of the most im I would say probably either the first, I mean, it was one of the most impressive, performances of the weekend, I believe, from Iowa State. They destroyed Arizona. That game was never close. Great home game for the Cyclones. I was way off. I got a little nervous when we were talking on Friday that this Arizona number was at 6 and immediately shot down to 4.5. It didn't make a lot of sense, but yeah, it didn't really matter because Iowa State just boat raced them. And is Iowa State still undefeated?
Yeah. Yeah, they are.
There you go. They have an interesting game this week. They travel to Cincinnati, and that's an interesting line. I think one of the most interesting lines that I saw this weekend, because Cincinnati's favorite in that game, laying a point and a half. So I imagine Iowa State's ranked, Cincinnati's not ranked. That's a good spot for the Bearcats, and they may be able to steal one. So is Iowa State still on fraud alert? We'll find out after that game because the line and the number is saying Cincinnati's going to upset Iowa, Iowa State, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I did have 3 winners, or no, I had another loser. My bad. And that was the Georgia Bulldogs. I think for me, I think one of the most impressive teams I saw on Saturday was the Alabama Crimson Tide. I've talked a lot about how Alabama has looked terrible, and we weren't able to trust them because Wisconsin's so bad, but they go into Athens and just beat the hell out of Georgia. And the score is only a field goal game, but just by watching, you could tell that Alabama came into play and they looked great. They looked really strong. Quarterback Simpson looked pretty good, had a great game. I mean, they threw a screen pass to like a left tackle, and he made it look easy. And yeah, I had to take the loss with the Bulldogs there. But my two winners were Ole Miss. Ole Miss had a great game. Are they for real? I don't know yet because we don't think very highly of LSU. I know I don't. Um, and Ole Miss dominated that game at home, like I thought they would. I believe that game closed with the Rebs laying 2.5 points. And they won. It wasn't a blowout win. LSU had the lead. I want to say at least for half of the game, it felt like, but the Rebels came through for me. And then the Mississippi State Bulldogs, a game where they could have won outright. They only got the cover just by the hook. If you got Mississippi State late on Saturday, I believe it was at 7. So you pushed. This was a game Mississippi State could have easily won, but I believe they threw 2 pick sixes, and that was a killer. And they went in overtime. Couldn't win. They couldn't tie up Tennessee. I believe Tennessee scored on their first drive. I think it was only one overtime. I could be wrong there. But yeah, I'll take the cover. So 2-3, that puts me a game over 500, and we'll see what this week brings for us as we run it back on Friday. But go ahead, Connor. Let's hear about some of the full season bets that you had made in the off season early in the summer, and get us updated on that, and catch some other people up that you know missed that early in the summer.
So earlier in the summer, I took Kentucky under 5.5 wins. That closed at 4.5. That's looking great. I took Southern Miss over 4.5. They're just a couple of wins away from hitting the over on that, so that's looking great. By the way, like we were laying, I did lay minus 180 juice under 5.5 for Kentucky, but for that one, I thought it was worth it. But Southern Miss at that point
Yeah.
was only minus 130. That closed at 5.5 wins. Um, Under 5.5 for Marshall. That's looking really good. That closed at 4.5. Washington over 7.5 at a plus 120 value. I still think that has a really good chance of cashing. Toledo over 8.5 minus 115. That closed at 8.5, but the juice was like minus 140, minus 150. Man, they should hit the over, but Jason Candle's probably gonna make me sweat that one out.
Mm-hmm.
And then let's see. I did not end up pulling the trigger on this one, but I did like Arkansas State under 5.5. I did not end up making a video on that, but for my own personal, that's looking okay. I
Yeah.
regret, John, as I talked with you, I regret not making a video for Colorado under 7.5 because I got on that real early at close at 5.5. So that's looking like
Mm-hmm.
that's going to cash for me. Sorry, DDSN Nation. Again, apologies there. I should have made a video for that back in January. Um, and then the one that's not going to go, the one that's already wrong. It's not going to. I've already lost money on this. Clemson over 9.5 at a plus value, and that closed,
The
by the way,
Clemson
at 10.5.
Tigers.
It closed at 10.5. The market agreed with me, and I still lost
Yeah.
it. So obviously Clemson, we're not telling Dabo Sweeney anymore. Let's see. I took Louisiana Tech over 4.5 conference USA wins. That's looking
Mm-hmm.
really good. They're 2-0 right now. I took Marshall in addition to their overall win total. I took under 3.5 Sunbelt wins. That's looking really good right now. They just lost to Louisiana. And Louisiana without their starting quarterback is looking like one of the worst Sunbelt teams. So that's for our preseason Marshall future. That's a good loss. That's a good win for Louisiana. That's a good win for us with Marshall
Mm-hmm.
losing. Let's see what else. Oh yeah, I also did some conference futures. I took Southern Miss. I think it was plus 2,700 to win the Sun Belt back in late May. So DDSN Nation, I think I referred to this a couple weeks ago on this channel. Because of that awesome price for Southern Miss there, I was already anticipating hedging if Southern Miss happened to win the West Division. Sun Belt's the only conference with divisions because I think the two best teams in the Sun Belt are out of the East, James Madison and Old Dominion. So if Southern Miss ends up winning the West, which by the way is looking more and more likely, hedge that bet if they play in the Sun Belt title. Obviously, that price would be worth to hedge. We got the one of the game of the year lines with Toledo at Kentucky, and then I lost this past week with Penn State, Oregon. Let's see, Washington to make the college football playoff. That was plus 950 when I made the video. So still an outside shot that happens. They still have opportunities at home against Illinois and Oregon to finish up the season. So
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to those games as well. But yeah, I mean, outside of Clemson, everything else has just been fantastic. And then of course we
Yeah.
lost Penn State, Oregon. I promised DDSN Nation I will no longer tail Dabo Sweeney, and I will no longer tail James Franklin. But outside of that, it's been a marvelous start.
Yeah, no, I agree, and we got on a lot of those numbers really early too. We posted them on YouTube. So yeah, those are all in great shape. And let's go back to Washington. I feel like the final score didn't really tell the story of the game as we kind of yeah, it was the bet loss, whether you got it, I believe it closed at 10. It went from 10 to 8. I don't know if it got down to 7.5. I can't remember. But it closed at 10 and about 3-1 on the money line. Washington came out hot. They just, they couldn't obviously they couldn't score any touchdowns, but I mean it was a 18-point game, and every time Washington had a huge stop on third down, there was a penalty every single time. And just like you had mentioned on that roughing the passer, that was a big call. But I still feel like Washington can still rally this season,
Yeah.
and they're not shouldn't be written off just yet.
Right. And part of my reasoning for Washington over 7.5 wins, and of course the long shot to make the college football playoff, first thing with the win total, I love their home and away schedules, or excuse
Hmm.
me, their home and road opponents. So I thought that a lot of their road opponents were beatable, regardless of where they played them. Like for example, they're playing at Maryland this week, but they're nearly a full touchdown favorite. Like now, just because you're nearly a full touchdown favorite doesn't guarantee you a win, obviously, but that just goes to show you
Hmm.
that the level of opponents that Washington plays on the road is a little bit more manageable this year. So I like that aspect.
Yeah.
And then they got pretty much all of their toughest opponents at home. And up until the Ohio State game, that was a Washington team that had won 22 consecutive home games in Husky
Home game.
Stadium. So
Yeah.
that home field advantage
Oh,
still applies to
The
Washington.
Georgia record went down as well.
Exactly, it did.
Yeah, that's right.
Um, so so that leads me kind of to my second thing there when you with you bringing up Georgia. I thought there was going to be a lot of chaos towards the top of college football this year, a lot of 2 and 3 loss
Mhm.
teams, and I thought Washington was probably going to be around a 3 loss team or so, but with a potential quality win against either an Ohio State, Illinois, or Oregon. And if there's a bunch of 2 and 3 loss teams towards the top of college football, and you have a quality win, especially if it's like an Illinois or an Oregon at home
Mhm.
later in the season, you're a Big Ten team. You might get up there in the rankings. You might have an outside shot to make the playoff. That's why I had those plus 950 odds for the Huskies to
Yeah.
make the CFP. So I like those long shots.
And speaking of that, what do you think about your Auburn Tigers after they went on the road against Texas A&M? I think their playoff hopes are looking a little more slim after that game.
Yeah, glad I did not make a video for this in the summer with Auburn. That was one that I was highly considering for a long
Mhm.
time.
Yep.
Um, look, we can scrutinize Jackson Arnold, and he is the reason why Auburn has not been able to break through to a larger degree this year or win some of those top games or win some of those
Yeah.
games against those top teams. But he has definitely been the reason. He's been the player holding Auburn back so far. But Auburn's defense has been awesome. The receivers are great. The offensive line's really good. The running back room is deep. You just kind of point to the quarterback. So
Yeah,
I mean,
and that's something I harped on you about all summer
yep.
as well, that he can't be he's not good. He unfortunate, but he's just not very good. They have 5 other quarterbacks. I thought I was expecting to see one get trot out there against A&M, but Hugh Freeze stuck with Arnold, I believe, until the very end, and, the only score that they had was a defensive touch wait, did he score on the defensive touchdown, or did they have to run it in from the 1-yard line or something?
Yeah, he set them up inside the 3 yard line. So
Okay. Okay, so they did technically have an offensive touchdown, but they didn't have an offensive touchdown with an offensive drive. So that was I mean, I had Auburn plus 7, and that was just a miracle that they got that defensive score. They had no business covering that game.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, but on the flip side, this Texas A&M team, they're starting to look like maybe they might be the real deal. But let's look at let me see how their schedule looks here. Okay, home against Mississippi State, home against Florida, Arkansas on the road, which who knows. Sam Pittman finally got fired. Been calling for that for I don't know how long. They go at LSU, which is now possibly a winnable game for A&M. On the road at Missouri, they could get tripped up there. And then at home against South Carolina, and then they travel to Austin, take on UT. And we really don't know what we're going to get from UT. Are they good? Are they not good? Defense is incredible, but can they score touchdowns? So hopefully we get a little more insight when UT plays Florida this weekend. That'll be a road game for the Longhorns, I believe. So that'll be interesting. And what's the other team? How about what are your thoughts? I know you like Signetti. What do you think about Indiana? Because they kind of struggled a little bit with Iowa, and this Iowa team, like we've said, there's not that great, but we knew they would be ready for that game. I didn't want to lay the points. I didn't want to take the points. But and then that kind of piggybacks on what you were talking about the parity, especially in the SEC. And then you have a Big Ten team like Indiana, who kind of doesn't have that strong of a schedule. I know there's SEC haters out there, and there's you know Big Ten lovers, but I mean, I'm looking at the Indiana schedule, and they go at Oregon, or who do they play this week?
Yeah, at Oregon.
Oh, is that this week? Okay. At Oregon, all right. They host Michigan State. They host UCLA. They go on the road at Maryland, which that may be a little bit tougher than they're expecting before the season started. At Penn State, everyone knows our feelings about Penn State. Host Wisconsin, and then on the road at Purdue, which that's a night game. Purdue may have a little something up their sleeve because seems like they have a pulse now. At least a little pulse, a little pulse. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about that and the parity around college football this year. So, but that gives us a nice little segue into some of the games that you're looking forward to this coming week.
Yeah, we've already got a couple of best bets for this week.
Yeah.
We tweeted those out a couple of days ago. We got those at some of the opening lines and opening prices. So, John, should I go ahead and go into those two best bets right
Yeah,
now?
yeah. Go ahead, because I don't have anything. The only two games that kind of popped out to me, which was that Cincinnati game, like I mentioned. Cincinnati lane 1.5 is just begging for it's really just begging to be bet against Iowa State. Maybe what was that, a week or two ago? We were a week early, a week or two ago on some teams. Maybe that's the case with Iowa State and the fraud alert that I put on them. That maybe it's this week is when they get tripped up, which I wouldn't be surprised. So that was the one number I saw, and it just popped out to me like, okay, yeah, give me Cincinnati on the money line just in case it goes into overtime. Lay the 1.5, whatever. And then the other game that stood out to me was going to be where you'll be next week or this weekend. I don't know. But that's New Mexico, Las Cruces. Sam Houston State is favored. The the Bearcats are a road favorite against New Mexico State Aggies. And I don't know if the Aggies have any injuries or anything like that, but if they don't have any, major injuries, I don't understand why New Mexico State's not favored in that one. And that's a Thursday game. There's a bunch of games on Friday, but that's the lone Thursday game.
I have not looked into that matchup at all, and obviously you and I are very very low on Sam Houston this year,
Oh,
but
yeah.
I don't have an opinion about that because at least Sam Houston coming off a bye week. They are finally playing a Conference USA level team and not a
Hmm.
juggernaut out of the
Yep.
non-conference, or having to play at Hawaii. Not that Hawaii is a juggernaut, but having to play on the Big Island is not easy. Um,
Yeah.
so no play for me on that game. Um, yeah, so let's go with those two best bets that I tweeted out a couple days ago. Let's go with, I haven't said this term in a long time, John. In fact, I don't know if I've ever said it on DDSN, but I said it a lot the year before I started writing for Desert Dweller. The Boilermakers are Purduing it this Saturday. I used to say it, Purduing it.
Purduing.
Yep.
Yeah, that I think that was the year before. Yeah, because I think that had to be the year before because Purdue sucked the last 2 years. I don't even think they've won it. They won no, maybe they've won like 2 games, but yeah, I think that was the year before.
Yeah, in 2022, I love the Boilermakers. I thought they could play for the Big Ten title, which of course ended up playing Michigan for the Big Ten title that year. Kept it competitive for a little while. Um, yeah, that team was a lot of fun to watch for Purdue. They had like their most NFL draft picks in a single NFL draft in 2023 since like the early 2000s. But give me Purdue plus 10.5. It was above a key number when we tweeted it out. So DDSN
Hmm.
Nation, make sure to look out for those tweets. We're going to start being a little bit more active around these key numbers when Circa first comes out with the stuff on Sunday afternoons. So
Yeah.
again, be alert for those. But yeah, because it's now at 9.5, so it's below that key number. A little bit more money is now coming in on Illinois at some sports books, at some other sports books. Some
I
money is
saw
coming in
that.
on Purdue, but it's at 9.5. But I got it at 10.5. So again, just be alert for those early plays for us. I love this spot here for Purdue, and this was, remember, now we're going back on the superlatives preseason, the
Yeah.
priors. Illinois fading them in the first half of the year. We ultimately, I don't think either of us made it a best bet last week with USC because we didn't like that travel
No.
situation for the Trojans playing at
Yeah.
Illinois. But here is a spot to fade Illinois. At least it was when the line first opened at 10.5. So Illinois coming off the emotional win against USC, last second field goal. And now the Illini have the Buckeyes on deck and Champaign next
Mm.
Saturday, and now they're just having to travel to Purdue, right? Little old Purdue, who hasn't won a Big Ten game in a long time, hasn't really been competitive in the Big Ten in a couple of years. But this is a rivalry game. I mean, it's not a huge rivalry, but it's a little bit of a rivalry.
Yeah.
And you got the Boilermakers coming off of a bye. Something else to keep note of: Purdue has won this matchup 7 of the last 9 times. Since
Mm.
2016, Purdue has won this game outright 7 times. And remember, last year, Purdue didn't win a Big Ten game. The one game that they were competitive in, Illinois. They took them to overtime
Illinois.
at Illinois.
Wasn't that like a 40-40, 50-50 game or something?
The final score, I think, was 50-49.
Okay. All right. I was in the ballpark. Okay.
Yeah. But obviously close
Yeah,
game.
because I'm remembering, I think Illinois was fair by like 21 points in that game or 19 points, I believe.
So yeah, give me Purdue plus 10.5. Again, above the key number. I don't hate it at 9.5, but you're probably going to be sweating that one out. You might be sweating it out at 10.5, but obviously getting it above a
Yeah.
key number is so key. And you know what, John,
I agree
for
with that.
sicko mode purposes, and we don't love Illinois, and they seem like the kind of team
Money line?
that's going to, maybe win a game that they shouldn't and also lose a game that they shouldn't. Give me
Because we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks. They've been on the cusp,
yeah,
at least showing flashes. Did they almost beat Notre Dame? No, but they scored 20 something points against Notre Dame.
30.
And then did they almost beat USC? No, but they scored, 20, 25 points and covered against USC. So they're showing a pulse, something they haven't had in the last 2 or 3 years.
And one team that they show more than just a pulse against is Illinois.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's at Purdue. Purdue's coming off a bye, tricky spot for Illinois. So I got it above the key number 10.5. So give me Purdue plus 10.5. That's my first best bet. Second best bet. John, I probably
I
should have
like
made a
it.
video for this when this first opened. Look ahead lines or look ahead totals. I said a
Uh-huh.
few weeks ago on DDSN here that I'm not big about point totals. I'm not, but this is one that I like. Give me under 45 between Texas and Florida. That's now like at 41 and a half, 42 at most places. But we tweeted that
42. I looked earlier. 42.
out, not too long ago. And at that time at Bet Rivers, it was at 45 flat. Key number
Mm-hmm.
there. Worst case, we get a push maybe. By the way, I said that I should have made a video for this with the look ahead. At FanDuel a week ago, it was at 52 and a half.
Yeah,
Are you
yeah, that's
kidding me?
crazy. Yeah,
At 45, I still love the play. And you know what? At 42, 41 and a half, I still don't mind the play taking under. But obviously, best bet under 45 between the Gators and the Longhorns. I love those two best bets. And I'm going to
yeah.
add two more for the show later. But, John, do you have any?
No, like I said, those were the two games that I have looked at, and I haven't jumped on anything because I haven't seen any that I'm like, I need to take this number now. Um, the only one was, who does Michigan State play?
Nebraska.
I wanted to take them. I wanted to take the points because I think it's like 16 points.
Well,
That's
there
not
was
something
some.
that I.
It went to like 12. It opened
Oh,
at like
12.
8.
May okay, maybe I'm okay. Never mind then.
It opened at 8, but there's been
Oh,
some.
it's the Michigan game that I'm thinking of. Michigan's laying 16, 16 and a half, hosting Wisconsin. And I think Michigan could beat the dog shit out of them. But I don't have any. The only ones that really caught my eye was New Mexico State on Thursday, and then Cincinnati minus 1.5. But I haven't played anything just yet. I'm still waiting. All mine usually I'll wait until Friday, and I haven't seen anything that really really jumped out at me. I'm going through the games right now just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Yeah, both Texas and Florida coming off a bye. That's gonna be interesting. Alabama, Vanderbilt, that should be good. I don't know. I may take the points with Vandy there, but I don't know, not yet.
Do you have any takes with
Um,
Florida State and Miami?
I do. I do actually. I think the number's too high, 4.5. Because think about it, if Florida State would have won against Virginia, which Virginia +7 cash, um, there's no way this spread would be 4.5. I think it would be 3. Miami favored if anything. So I think Florida State coming off a loss makes it even more amazing to me because it's just a buy low spot on Florida State. Is Miami great? Yeah, I've said this before. They're probably, after what Ohio State kind of showed me, I'll leave Ohio State as my number one team in the country. But then it'll be Miami. Like Miami right there. They have the NFL talent, they have the offensive line, they have the athletes, they have the running backs, and Carson Beck's playing up to his potential with his weapons. So to me, Miami's probably one of the top 5 teams in the country. Florida State, turnovers killed them. The spot was awful for Florida. For Florida State, Friday night game on the road. It was just a perfect spot, only waiting for Tony Elliott to find a way to fuck it up. And he didn't because Chandler Morris didn't fuck it up either. So, two guys who unfortunately find ways to lose games. And that's why Chandler Morris has been at so many different schools, plus injury issues. But it is a great. I'm happy for him. I'm a fan, and I don't dislike Tony Elliott. He just has some bonehead decisions sometimes. So Virginia should be undefeated. North Carolina State got beat by Virginia Tech. Did they not
They did. Yep.
over the weekend? Yeah. So that's such a terrible game to lose for Tony Elliott. They should be undefeated. So that's stuff like that just really grinds my gears. So I would take the points with Florida State 4.5. Like I said, I don't think the number's correct. Um, I just think it's a spot to buy low on a night game for Florida State. this is probably one of the biggest home games, probably since the last time they played Miami. I'm trying to think of that game when Florida State was undefeated, if that was at home. I believe it was at home.
Yes, I think actually,
I'm trying to think, um, because it was Miami actually played them tough, so I don't know if that may have been in the Orange or Hard Rock or whatever. But
it was
that
at
was
Florida
one.
State.
It was okay.
It was at
Yeah.
Florida
So
State. Yeah.
Florida State played Miami played Florida State tough. Now the shoe's on the other foot. The pressure's all on Miami, and Florida State's trying to get their stripes back. And I think that it's a game where the spread should be 3. If Florida State would have beat Virginia, the spread is probably 3, maybe 3.5. But 4.5, I just think Florida State, they showed a lot in that game. Um, they just, it was just a terrible spot. And like we talked about, that happens in college football. You're not always going to have undefeated seasons, super dominant teams anymore like they used to, because NIL and everything, money is so spread out so that some of these teams can compete. Not like Florida State is like a run of the mill school, but um, I think 4.5 is just not a number that I feel is correct. I think that the spread should be 3. Um, and I mean, Miami's on the road. They finally have pressure on them. They've played a tough schedule, but again, Notre Dame, first game with a rookie or freshman quarterback. Notre Dame's defense is terrible. They didn't run the ball. They lose. Okay, Miami looks amazing. Miami destroys a hot South Florida team, right? South Florida, good team, but there's no way that they were going 3 crazy upsets in a row, in my opinion. And Florida's a complete mess. They're a disaster. So what has Miami really done? They've kind of beat. It's kind of like who were we talking about the other day that this team just beat a bunch of posers? May have been
LSU.
LSU.
LSU. Yeah.
um yeah, so you have this team that beat a bunch of posers. It's like, well, how tough are they? Ole Miss smacked them in the mouth. They proved they proved this right. Ole Miss did. So I think it's same kind of scenario here with Florida State. I don't agree with the number, and I feel like the loss to Virginia's a good team. They have a strong offensive line, strong defensive line, just like Miami does. It's not surprising that Florida State lost that game or struggled. Turnovers killed them. I just disagree with the number, and I love Florida State in this spot because now the roles reverse. So Florida State's the hunter now instead of being the hunted on the road, and now Miami's the team that's being hunted by the Seminoles. So yeah, I disagree with the number. I love the spot for Florida State, and 4.5 is just a little ridiculous in my opinion.
So Florida State money line is also going to be a play for you. Money line
Yeah,
spread
I
type play.
I definitely think that they'll win the game, especially being at home. I just, for us, it's different, but for a lot of people who don't know, the ins and outs of like Virginia's a good football team, and that's a legit win, or that's a legit loss for Florida State. It's not like they got beat by a terrible team and just didn't show up. They got punched in the mouth, but they also punched Virginia back in the mouth as well. They just lost. Game went overtime. They lost. You move on. And if they could beat Miami at home, it's like the Virginia loss never happened. To be honest with you, so I think it just sets up perfect for Seminoles.
I like that thinking there. Um, Similar to what you had to say last week in regards to fading LSU and fading Iowa State, because we both agreed that we both said it last week. We think they've been fraudulent, and
Yeah.
now last week I agreed with the Ole Miss money line sprinkle for you and Ole Miss money line best bet. Thought that was a really good play. I agree with you about Iowa State being fraudulent, but I didn't want to fade them at home against Arizona.
Yeah.
Guess what I'm going to do this week? I'm going to fade Iowa State. DDSN Nation,
I agree.
CFE finally has a Big 12 play. This is my first Big 12 best bet of the season. I don't like
Mhm.
Big 12 stuff, but this just feels right.
Yeah.
Is there any, angle that you can take on this game? No, it's Big 12. They're all toss-ups. It just feels like it's too good to be true for Iowa State. It had If they beat Cincinnati, they'd be 6-0. I don't think so.
Mhm.
I don't think this Iowa State team is as talented as they were a season ago. I thought this was like an 8-4-ish kind of team this year for Iowa State. If they were to win this game, they're
Mhm.
probably going to be 9-3, 10-2 because their schedule, like I said last week, you take it with a grain of salt, but their schedule is probably one of the more favorable in the Big 12. This just feels like the
Mhm.
right time. And if you look at Cincinnati's schedule moving forward, you might be thinking, well, isn't it too good to be true for Cincinnati to win, two straight games against some of the better teams in the Big 12? Well, you could say that for the short term, but if you look long term, Cincinnati's schedule, especially in November, it gets pretty difficult. So they're still likely to have at
Yep.
least three, if not maybe 4 or 5 more losses coming, and they already have one. This just feels like the right spot for a game that the public is going to be all over Iowa State, and the Sharps are all over Cincinnati right now. I think this closes at 2.5, maybe even a full field goal for
Mhm.
Cincinnati. Give me Cincinnati on the money line. I think it's -120, -125, depending on where you look. I'm
Yeah,
with you,
that's ki
John.
it's yep.
I'm with you. You said, like, don't worry about laying -1.5. Just take Cincinnati on the money line.
Yeah.
I would do that right now because I don't think this is going to close at 1.5.
I agree, and like I said, that was one of the lines that popped out to me was this one. It just screams Cincinnati, you
Yep.
know. You're right. Like I agree and 100%. Okay, now I have the Cincinnati schedule in front of me. So you have I guess Iowa State's ranked 14th and then they're underdogs on the road at little old Cincinnati. Yeah, go ahead and give me the Bearcats. So I agree 100% with you and that play. Again, it's a perfect now that we're getting a little bit further into the season, some of these spots are going to set up now that we have 4 games under our belt. And this sets up perfectly for Cincinnati and they have a quarterback. So
Yep.
you don't have to kind of plug your nose and pray with like Jackson Arnold, where how am I going to cover? We can't. How are we going to score? How are we going to score? Cincinnati has a quarterback. They have an offense. So I agree with you. I love that play. Cincinnati on the money line, 100%.
And also, I do have some info for this game. So, number one, you're just talking about Brendan Sorsby, the quarterback for Cincinnati. PFF loves Sorsby. They have him as one of their top quarterbacks. They may have even had him number one
Uh huh.
after this past week with his performance against the Jayhawks on the road
Yeah.
there. Really good performance from Sorsby. Glad to see him bounce back because he didn't look great to start the season, but he's really played well last couple of weeks. This was a Cincinnati team coming into the year that lost all their top pass catchers from last year, so they were breaking in a lot of new receivers. So they seem like they've found their groove in the passing game. That's great to see. The offensive line's been really good this year. That was a group that I was actually pretty high on coming into the year. I like their defensive line. I think they could actually push Iowa State around here. And I'm still not high on that Iowa State receiving core. I like the spot here for Cincinnati. In addition, I do have some actual like it's not behind the scenes anymore because it was announced today, but I figured this would be the case coming off of Iowa State's victory against Arizona. Iowa State's now without two of their best corners going up against this passing attack for
Hmm.
Cincinnati. So yeah, I like Cincinnati. I would not be shocked to see the Bearcats win this game, by a full touchdown or so. So yeah,
Yeah.
give me Cincinnati, but don't worry about laying the with the spread there. Just take the money line because it's valuable right now. It's at a good price. But yeah, I like the home team that's going to be viewed as the upset pick, but that's actually favored in the market. Yeah,
Yeah.
Cincinnati money line.
No. Yep. I agree with you. All right, Tim, I'm listening literally to do the opposite. You guys are clowns. I appreciate the comment though.
Yeah, we appreciate it.
That's all right. All right. So, what was the other game that you had? You said you had one more. Is that correct?
Yes, I have one more.
Thanks for tuning in, Tim. We appreciate it.
Let's go with Colorado State team total under 16 and a half at San Diego State. This will be a Friday night game. This is a 9:30 p.m. Central Time kickoff. San Diego State's defense has been fabulous this year. So San
Hmm.
Diego State's 3-1 against the spread. Guess what the one time we took them was? The one time that lost
The
against Washington
the
State,
Washington State
of
game.
course, right? Now I'm not going to worry. I'm not going to try to uh, sweat out taking San Diego State to cover the spread here, -5.5, -6, depending on where you look. I would think that San Diego State finds a way to cover that, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to play
Mhm.
the Colorado State team total. San Diego State's offense has not been good this year. I said that a week or two ago on the show following their performance against Washington State, but their defense has been fabulous. And then you look at Colorado State. Oh my goodness, John. Their offense is in a lot of trouble right now. Colorado State scored 16 at home against UTSA.
Mhm.
UTSA does not have a great defense. And
No.
then at
No.
home against Washington State, they scored a whopping 3 points. They had a field goal in their opening drive. Colorado State at home against a rebuilding Washington State never scored again. And there's been a quarterback carousel. They are trying to figure out who their offensive coordinator, offensive play caller is going to be for this game. Give me Colorado State under 16 and a half. I honestly would not be surprised to see Colorado State score less than a touchdown here. So,
Ye
yeah.
yeah, and I was, I guess surprised because I looked at the spread on this one and San Diego State was laying 6 points here, 6 point favorite. So yeah, that tells you Colorado State is not looking very hot this year, and somehow they almost beat UTSA. Thankfully, they didn't though.
Right. But yeah, I like that play a lot. I think Colorado State's offense is going to be in for an uphill battle against the Aztec defense. And let me look at San Diego State real quick to get this nugget exactly correct here. San Diego State at home this season has pitched two shutouts so far against one of them against Stony Brook, but the other against Cal and that good freshman quarterback that they have. So San Diego
Hmm.
State has not allowed a single point at home this year. And we're talking about a Colorado State offense, which has really struggled against not great defenses, against average defenses. And now they're going to be facing the
Hmm.
best defense that they faced up to this point this year. And their team total is 16 and a half. You know what? This would
Yep.
have to be like a Buffalo Troy situation, a bad beat for me to lose this. And bad beats occur, but that's how that's the only way I would lose this. So,
Hmm.
so I'll take under 16 and a half for that Colorado State team total at San Diego State on Friday night. So my four best bets, yeah, CSU under 16 and a half team total, uh, Purdue plus 10 and a half, under 45 between Texas and Florida, and
Hmm.
Cincinnati on the money line against the current undefeated Iowa State Cyclones.
And was there one? I thought you had something for the SMU Syracuse game,
I was
or
thinking
did
about
you
it.
change your mind?
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. I
Okay.
that number's gone up, so it would be stale. So
And what number? What were you looking at there? I don't think I remember you saying if it was like a total or the spread or
I
what you had in mind for that game.
I was considering taking the SMU team total over before it was announced,
Mhm.
and it came out. I was thinking it was going to be like 34 and a half, 35, or 35 and a half or so, but it's 37 and a half. So no plays for me on that game. But like I said at the beginning of this show, I may have something later on Friday to add, but those are my four best bets as of right now.
Okay. All right, there you
And
go.
again, and
And
again,
I think
two of them have already changed significantly since we tweeted them out. So
mhm. Yeah, yeah, and I agree. I think the only thing that by the time we log off here, what I have is right now is going to be Florida State and Cincinnati. But yeah, I'll wait to see how these aligns how they look, and we'll be back on Friday. Hopefully Tim's here to tune in, and everyone else. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to another week. Got to bounce back uh, after my 2 week winning streak got snapped. So still with the winning record, so I'm not complaining too much, but ready to bounce back though, and I know you are as well.
yeah, we had a great, fabulous week a couple weeks ago, but Lately, it's for me, it's been a couple of cold takes, couple of bad beats, only a couple of wins. So I got to
Gold
get back up.
takes.
Yeah, I got to get back on the winning streak.
That's
I mean,
right.
yeah, we we started off great, but
Gotta
has been
get
great
back
as
on
of
that
late.
horse.
Yeah,
Yeah, just gotta get back on that saddle, turn things around, which, good thing we have plenty of football and season left. So I'm not too worried about it. Like I said, I have a winning record, and I'm not too sure what yours is, but I know you're due for a bounce back this coming week, though. And like
five
you
and
said,
seven,
you're pretty confident. So
five
five
and
and
seven
seven, okay,
overall.
that's not too bad.
Yeah,
It's
but
easy to come back from that, and I think you'll be able to do it this week because I like your plays too.
yeah, and two of them have
Last
already.
week, I know I know I didn't like Penn State, so I was like, well, if they win, great. If not, yeah, hopefully you'll just stay away from Drew Aller and James Franklin, a duo that you don't want to be associated with.
Yeah, yep. Looking at that performance,
But
you're
yeah, that's
definitely right.
everything. That's everything that we had today, I believe. So we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Get ready for the to do it all over again on Friday.
Yeah, and we will recap our best bets from today on Friday's show. But yeah, I'm feeling great about these four best bets, and two of them again have already changed. Technically, some money coming in with the sharps at least with Cincinnati, but we think the public's going to be all over Iowa State on that game. So, and then of course with Colorado State, I'm surprised there's not been some more movement in regards to more money coming in on the under with these two teams because both have
Uh-huh.
struggled offensively. And both have been better defensively than offensively. And San Diego State, power ratings wise, has one of the best defenses in the G5. So,
All right. Well, let's hope they show up Saturday. Looking forward to it, especially if Colorado State loses. That's always a good thing. But all right, we'll go ahead and wrap it up and see y'all back again on